Welcome, everybody. Excited to certainly be back home. Been a while. I don't know that team's ever gone 6 straight weeks without, or 6 weeks in between home games in a regular season. So certainly been a fun stretch, though. Guys have played well, gotten a lot better throughout all these last several road games. Certainly really excited to get back, play in front of our home fans. Hopefully they're excited to come watch this team play. Our guys are getting better quickly, and we've had a good start to the week here, and just excited about continuing our climb. So it's been a fun stretch, and excited to get to play some November ball here, which tends to be our favorite around here. So hopefully we can keep up the momentum, keep improving as a football team. We'll be excited to play Kansas coming in here at 2:30 Saturday. Just can't wait to get there. So I'm not going to go any longer. We'll let you guys jump into questions.
Joe Bettner with the Norman Transcript, and then go to Ryan Aber.
Hey, Lincoln, try to ask you this on Saturday, but I know with the experience that Perkins and Stevenson have, I know they've got that, but can you speak to the difficulty of those two dropping in the middle of the season and having, I guess, as big an impact as they had on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, they're both guys that have some experience, and we've still been able to get them work, albeit most of it's been on scout teams up until this point, and so they've been continuing to get work, continuing to train. Not exactly like playing on a Saturday, but yeah, I mean, I think we had good plans for them both. Had limited roles in for both of them. Didn't try to do too much, especially with finding out, as late as we did and not having quite as much notice. And so I thought the plan was good, and I thought both those guys did a pretty good job. I mean, they both made some big plays. They certainly both made some mistakes too, which was to be expected. But they're guys that have played before, and you could certainly see that.
Ryan Aber, the Oklahoman, and then Eric Bailey.
Yeah, Lincoln, it seems like since being pulled there in the second quarter of the Texas game, Spencer's decision-making, especially as it relates to avoiding turnovers, has been so much better. Is that what you've seen? And just how much of a difference have you seen in his protecting the ball and not putting throws where the other team can get to him?
Yeah, he's definitely improved. I think he's starting to learn more the difference between being aggressive, but also kind of doing it in a calculated way, learning to manage games a little bit better. When we can afford to take risks, when we cannot. I think he's certainly put more of a premium on that. I think seeing that we can make some explosive plays, and we don't have to hit the home run every single time. And so he's getting better. I think maturity, and I think some of it is, when you come back and play well in a game like he did that one at the end, certainly adds to the confidence and belief in what you're doing. And so yeah, I mean, he's growing, he's getting better. For him though, I mean, each week is still its own week. I mean, every week's new. Defenses are new, opponents new, matchups are new, game plan. There's always going to be some evolving things there. So it's getting better, but you don't ever get there. It's not like a destination. You learn from the experiences you have. You try to apply them as much as you can to the new experiences that come up, and the more you can do that successfully, the better you'll get.
Appreciate it, Lincoln.
Eric Bailey, Tulsa World, and then Jason Kersey.
Hey, Lincoln, your defense ranked 17th in third down stops last season, and you're in the top 10 this year. What's been the biggest key to your team's success in that category under Coach Grinch?
We've played pretty good team defense there. I think Coach Grinch has done a good job of, I think schematically, get into things that we can be very good at. Third downs can be one of those areas where you see teams do one of two things. Most teams have a pretty elaborate package, and then some teams kind of stay more towards home base, and we're somewhere in between, and we found a good little niche there that we were comfortable with. And then I think our guys have played great team defense in those situations. Certainly those third downs always start with how you play up front, whether it's, long yardage and being able to create pressure, or short yardage and being able to get penetration and make the run game difficult. We've been able to do that, and then we've matched that well on the back end. So no, it's certainly been a strength of the team last year, and here just past the midway point, it's so far been a strength of this team as well.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Jason Kersey, The Athletic, and then Bob Prisbillo.
Lincoln, the penalty numbers for you guys were substantially down compared to the rest of the season. What caused you guys to get so much better so quickly in that area?
Our guys we're just playing smarter. I think we're growing. We really try to emphasize how much winning football that we put on tape, and we really try to do a good job of illustrating to our guys and the difference, that the difference that makes in games. I mean, it's easy for everybody to say, well, you have a bunch of penalties, blah, blah, blah. It's not good. But the same token, if you're not aggressive, you're not going to beat anybody anyway. So it's much more difficult to find that fine line for a player than maybe what the casual fan would think. And I think our guys have gotten a better feel for it. I think we're understanding more and more how things are called, understanding when we, still being very physical and aggressive, but understanding the things that we absolutely can't have. And we've just avoided them. We have not had, we've had a few aggressive penalties here and there in the last few weeks. The thing I would say is we have really done a nice job of cutting down on the dumb penalties, and the ones that just really kill you, the mental mistakes. And so credit to our guys. I think it's just some of our evolution as a team right now.
Let's go to Bob Prisbillo, Sooner Scoop, and then John Hoover.
Yeah, Lincoln, when it comes to the suspended players, how tough was it to not let that become a big team distraction? You could see the fans were asking about it every single week. You said Friday night, the team erupted when they found out. How tough was that to try to balance it throughout the first half of the season?
Oh, it was probably tougher for those individuals, than it was the rest of the team. I mean, not that the team didn't feel for them; they certainly did. But I mean, you got to move on, and those created, opportunities for other people, and nobody's gonna, we're not. I think we determined ourselves we weren't going to use it as a crutch. It was what it was, and so I don't know that it was a super hot topic around here. I mean, we just kind of went with the mindset that, whenever we have them, that's great. But if we don't, it's no different than a player getting injured or anything else happen. You just have to deal with it. So probably a lot tougher on those individuals in the end.
John Hoover with SI Sooners, and then Caleb McCurry.
Hey, Lincoln, on that topic with Randre and Ronnie back last week, I'm wondering if you can elaborate on Trajan Bridges' situation, what's different about it, what you've heard back on him, and if you expect him to play at all this year. Also, can you provide any update on LaRon Stokes' availability?
Yeah, Trajan, kind of like we've said a bunch, that this process is not quite as clear cut or as easy as maybe it could or should be. I would say Trajan's still in that process right now, so we'll see how that unfolds. LaRon wasn't available, obviously, last week. Got a little banged up the week before. Potentially available this week. I would list him as questionable right now. We'll see how he proceeds. Mm-hmm.
Caleb McCurry, OU Daily, and then James Hale.
And with today being election day, how much does this team really look forward to this day? Not because, of course, it's a day off, but because for months they've been really vocal about voting rights.
Very much so. A lot of our guys have already been able to vote even before today, which has been great. And we've got, I think, the majority of the remaining guys are getting it done today as well. And our guys have. It's an important day because our guys want to be heard, and they've wanted to make a difference. And so it certainly is important. And I think for our guys, I mean, regardless of the results of this thing, just the fact that we've been, as active as we've been, our guys have done it with such class. Our guys have, I think, helped educate other people. I know, the majority of our guys, if you were to take a poll of how many players on our football team voted in the last presidential election versus this one, it's probably going to look a lot different. So it shows guys have gotten educated and really, this matters really meant something to them. And I've been proud of the way they've handled it and excited for them to all have that opportunity today.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll go to James Hale with KREF and then Brandon Drum.
Lincoln, it looks like that your team is really together. It looks like they really enjoy playing. I say that because they've gone through so much with COVID and everything just to get on the field. And here you have these, three guys that, violated rules or whatever happened to them, and they weren't allowed to play. And yet, as soon as they came back, even though it might take some playing time away from a player or two, they were ecstatic. As you pointed out, they almost tore the place apart celebrating. Could you talk about how together this team is and how close-knit this team is? Because it looks like they're really close.
I sense that. It hasn't been the smoothest road to get there. Just in that, with the adversity that you mentioned, and then just other adversities that you just internally go through as a team. That's, we've had our rough patches too. But the thing I would say about this team is, anytime a rough patch has happened, whether it's any internal conflict, whether it's not winning a football game, whether it's COVID, whether it's social unrest, whatever it's been, there's been plenty. This team has let it bring them together as opposed to divide it. And I think that's probably been the key for us, as we've taken whatever adversity's been thrown at us, and it really has bonded us even more and more. And so I do believe they enjoy playing the game together. They've been great in practice all year. They really have, especially considering all that's going on. So I do think it's a team that wishes we had, a lot more than a 10-game season.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go to Brandon Drum with OU Insider and then Keegan Renault.
Hey, Lincoln, you said against Iowa State after the loss that you guys were close. After, you just won 62-28. How are you there yet to where you thought? I know you guys are never satisfied, but are you where you guys want to be right now, or is there still so much more that you guys think that you guys can be?
No, there's definitely a lot more. That's the world of overreactions, which we get it. That's where we live in. But, you lose a game to Iowa State and everybody thinks you're the sorriest team that's ever played. And, and then you go win big and this last week, and now all of a sudden, we'll be the 85 Bears. So, it's, the Iowa State game wasn't nearly as bad as what a lot of people would think. And this one wasn't nearly as good as what a lot of people would think. Are we getting better? Yes, we are. We still go back on that film and we could throw up a bunch of great things. Certainly improvement as the year's been on, no doubt about it. I don't want to sound, too pessimistic, but at the same time, there's still a ton of mistakes on that film and a lot of things that as we go forward that we're going to have to get better, that we can get better at. And that's how you play your best ball here at the end of the season. And, so that's this team's goal, to continue to eliminate the mistakes and play as much winning football as we possibly can.
Thanks, Lincoln.
We'll go to Keegan Renault with Sooners Wire and then Barry Trammell.
Lincoln, we kind of asked you this question a year ago, but now with how disruptive this defense has been really the last 2 weeks, is this under Alex Grinch, is this what you could have imagined this defense could become, just with the disruptiveness and how much that's helping the secondary and, the rushing lanes for the linebackers to fill and all that?
It's a style we want to play. There's no question about that. Now, what we can become, I still think that's way out there, from the way we've played up to this point. But it is absolutely the style we want to play. We want a front that is aggressive, that does cause a lot of havoc, where you've got a lot of different people, creating penetration, making things difficult on the offense, and then, which then creates opportunities for an aggressive back end. And that's how we want to play. That's, I do think we're getting better and better at that. I think we're getting more and more guys that are able to help and able to understand not just the schemes, but, and I've talked about this a lot defensively, but you could tell a guy to go to a C gap, and there's a difference between going to a C gap, putting your body in a C gap, and then just dominating and absolutely just blowing up a C gap. There's two different things, and that's the mentality I think that's starting to take hold a little bit more, especially with the front. I see us more, dominating gaps as opposed to just getting there. And so it's growing. I mean, it's heading in a great direction, no doubt. And we would expect it to continue to get better.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Barry Trammell, the Oklahoman, and then Garen Emig.
Yeah, Lincoln, you got a little bit more knowledge, I think, of the Kansas program than other teams you play since your brother spent 3 years there. It's a struggling place. From an outside perspective, what can Kansas do to get going? I mean, we're looking at more than a decade now of really struggling to get anything going. What does KU need to build up their program?
Oh man, I'm not an expert on it. I mean, I've certainly known some people that have been in the middle of it, but there's a difference between just hearing about it and living it. So I don't want to speculate too much. I mean, I know they've, over the years have had some, they've had some big wins, and then they've had, several, even now just thinking back like to the Texas game last year, I can think of several where they've been just right on the doorstep of maybe breaking through. And it's hard. It's hard to whatever point your program's at, regardless of what it is, to break through that next step is never easy. And a lot of times it's, one key moment, one key game that can really spur you on. And so, I think, I've seen them close. I know they got a darn good coaching staff. I know they got a supportive group out there. So, I mean, from an outside perspective, I would think, certainly could happen anytime. I think they've been right on the doorstep multiple different times in the past several years.
Garen Emig, Tulsa Whirl, and then Kerry Murdoch.
Lincoln, last week with the beat guys, you addressed a personal sort of evolution about an issue related to your players. A lot of times when coaches change over the years, we think in terms of just football, schemes, philosophies, and whatnot. You brought to mind something that has to do with the team, but not so much on the field, but off. How do those two sides of coaching evolution, if you know what I'm saying, relate? Is one just as important as the other for a coach to grow and get better and more comfortable in this program?
Oh, I'd say the football side of it's probably the easier side. That's handling all these guys deal with outside of football and the world around them and environments, cultures. It's not easy because you've got core values and things that you believe in that I think you've always got to stick to and be important, but you better not be too rigid, in my opinion, on in some areas because the world is changing and these guys, they don't just live up here. They've got a whole other part of their lives, and a lot of them coming from all kinds of different backgrounds. And so, yeah, I mean, we've tried to find that fine line here, of again, those absolute beliefs that we have and not straying from them, but not being too rigid that we can't adapt. And I guess in some ways almost parallels kind of how we feel about our, schematically the football game. I mean, kind of the same way, you got your core things you believe in, but you better be you better be willing to adapt. And, that was an example where, I was a little too slow to adapt, in my opinion. But the world's changing, and you gotta, we can't just stick our head in the sand and pretend like we don't see it.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Kerry Murdoch, Sooner Scoop and WWLS, and then Myron Patton.
Hey, Lincoln, I'm curious. I know everybody kind of develops in their own pace, but what have you seen from Theo Weiss this year in just terms of his development and maybe even how much Spencer has kind of played in a role in him kind of developing as a receiver, really a bigger playmaker for you on the offense this year?
Yeah, no, he's doing well. I thought he had some key moments last year, really gave him some confidence. He played well. Against Baylor up there in the comeback game, played pretty well in the bowl game. so had some nice plays for us. And then I think his confidence is growing. He's starting to, I think, really run routes more aggressively. I think he's playing faster, a little bit more physical, which has been good to see. And, it's at that position, so much of it is about confidence because it becomes a game of one-on-one matchups. And when you're playing fast and aggressive and you're a talented, guy like Theo is, that's going to be a tough combination to stop for anybody one-on-one. So, no, our confidence in him is developing. Certainly Spencer's, our quarterbacks, is as well. So it's been a nice evolution, and he's certainly getting a lot better, and I think gaining a lot of steam along the way.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Myron Patton, Fox 25, and then Jenny Carlson.
Yeah, Lincoln, how much of your offensive improvement has to do with your offensive line? I remember the Kansas State game. I don't know if they actually got to sack Spencer a lot, but it seemed like the offensive, the pocket was always kind of closing in on the second half of that game. And it looks like the last few games he's kind of had the ability to kind of stand back there and just find a receiver. He's rolled out some, but how much is that the offensive line? How much of that is maybe just his own force?
The O-line's done a good job. I think we've strung together several pretty good weeks in a row. I mean, I think a lot of it is that I think our older guys have really started playing some quality ball, starting to play the way that we would expect them to play as a unit. I think there's more cohesion within the unit. And then when we have played younger players, they've been ready to go in there, play more mistake-free. Our younger guys are very talented. Physically they match up with just about anybody, even though they're pretty young. But those guys have been able to come in, still take quality snaps and play more mistake-free. And so I think that's, I think the group has improved. I think there's no question they've played cleaner for us. We've needed them to. I mean, to be a great offensive football team, you better be pretty darn good up there. So we're heading in a great direction. And I think the competition that we have right now at a lot of those spots has been a big part of it, because guys know, whether you're got started a bunch or, guy's really talented player or whatever, that if you're not playing at a high level, somebody else is going to be in there. And so that's a good spot to be in as far as a competition standpoint.
Jenny Carlson with the Oklahoma.
Hey, Lincoln, I wanted to ask you about Randre. I know you guys signed him out of junior college, but were you aware of him at Centennial in Vegas, or was that more of a late on the radar? And if you were aware of him in high school, is he similar now to what he was then? He's such a big guy. Was he that way when you first saw him?
We weren't, Jenny. We weren't aware of him in high school. Wasn't a guy that we recruited. He caught our eye. Well, we decided, would have been now almost 2 years ago, but we decided that at that point that we were in the market for potentially a JC running back, and started looking around. And we especially liked the thought of bringing in a little bit bigger body, at that time. Not that we were small, but at that time we were starting to look for those guys. And he got recommended by a couple of contacts that we have out on the West Coast that had seen him play in person and thought he was pretty impressive. And we watched the film, loved the tape, got a chance to get around the kid. And it came together quickly. I mean, I remember we offered him, recruited him for a little bit. He came in out here, liked it, and ended up committing. And had several schools that didn't want him to sign early, because I think that was the year we had the first early signing date. And there were several schools that didn't want him to sign early, wanting to wait and come visit them in January and have a chance to sign him in February. But he was, lucky for us, he was pretty locked in with us at that point.